Republicans are preparing to cause a right royal ruckus over the coronation weekend. Over 1,350 have already pledged to protest on the procession route on May the 6th. Now, Republican activists will chant "Not My King" as our newly crowned sovereign passes by in his gold stagecoach. Now, protest organisers have said their demonstrations will be strictly peaceful. The question tonight I want to put to you, is it right that they'll be allowed to ruin such an important day for so many people? Now, in a moment, I'll be speaking to former BBC royal correspondent Michael Cole. But first, delighted to be joined by spokesman for Labour for a Republic, Nic Lawley, who claims that he will be protesting at the coronation. Nick, thank you for joining us. Why? Why will you be protesting, my friend?
Thank you, Jeremy, for giving us this opportunity to speak to you. You're living up to the name of the station, Talk. And I must say that not everyone, not all the media does do this. So we really appreciate this opportunity. Look, the coronation is estimated to cost £100 million. And that's during a cost of living crisis. And the fact of the matter is that although people might chant "Not My King," and I'd probably be joining in that chant, the fact of the matter is Charles is a king. So why does he need a coronation that is going to cost so much money? Could he not do a much? He talked about having a slimmed down ceremony, etc. This is going to cost an exorbitant amount of money. And in terms of why the protest, well, I have very strong opinions, obviously, about why I believe that a monarchy is wrong in 2023. And we were told that we shouldn't protest when the Queen died because it was disrespectful. We're told we shouldn't protest during a royal wedding because that's about love. The occasion to do it is surely this sort of official welcoming of an unelected head of state. So this is the perfect opportunity. And we hope that many people will come and join us and make
Nick,
it
the
clear
reason, Nick, the reason I wanted to put you on, and I return the compliment. I am a monarchist, but I think it is very important because one of the things that I know, the old man, people know this, worked for the royal family for 41 years, and he always said to me that once the Queen left us, the mystique would go and this love for this woman would change how people perceive. And there is absolutely the acknowledgement that there are people now who believe a republic is the answer. Can I just go through a couple of things with you, OK? You say that £100 million is the cost of the coronation. Are you talking about our constitutional monarchy being defunct, or are you talking about the money? Because what I can counter that with you, and this is a proven fact, the UK economy will be boasted by an enormously more large amount of money than that, with souvenirs and street parties and all the things, hundreds of millions. I mean, that is an absolute fact. I am asking you, do you disagree with a constitutional monarchy, not because of the cost of a coronation and a day for that celebration? Is it the actual being of that body? And if it is, what would you replace it with, my friend?
Well, I think that's a tricky question, right? In the sense of what do you replace it with? And it's something that's often thrown in my face. And often people will be like, what about President Johnson or President Blair or whatever? And I often have to point out, well, at least those would be elected. At least you could get rid of those people. You could impeach them. There are steps there that would be available to you. I would also point to really successful republics, like let's look at Ireland, for example, who's just had a very wonderful time with President Biden. I would look at Iceland, for example, where their presidents often have poll ratings much higher than even the Queen had at times. So there are alternatives. And I think this thing that's thrown at me of like, what would you replace it with, shows a lack of ambition and maybe patriotism in the people of the UK, that we can't produce someone better than someone who is simply born into a family.
OK, let's talk about this.
There's real ambition here that needs to be alive for every young Brit should have the hope to be head of state of this great country.
Nick, let's talk about you personally. You've said that I will be there, I will be protesting, and let me point out that it is absolutely right in this country that our freedom allows us to protest. My difference between you and Paul Stevens at the beginning of the show, sticking themselves and throwing things and disrupting, I don't think, personally, that that's a particularly good look. I accept very much, despite being a monarchist, that there are people who crave a republic. Let me ask you this, though, on a very personal level. Do you think throwing eggs at a 74-year-old man is acceptable behaviour and, hear me out, is going to do anything for your argument? I think that's a very relevant question, my friend.
Look, I understand why someone would do it, because there's a sense among many Republicans that we don't get the airtime to do it. Personally, I think the Republicans are the grown-ups in the room who don't believe in this sort of mystical being the straight from divine right of God. And I think we're the grown-ups, and we need to show that by having debates like we're having right now, and by having very peaceful protests at key moments such as at the coronation. I think it's the grown-up strategy, and I think that's why we're putting forward that option to people.
Well, I would listen to you far more than Extinction Rebellion. And Nic Lawley, thank you very much indeed for giving us time, because the important point about JK Live is that we hear all sides. Thank you. Let's cross to Suffolk now. Former BBC royal correspondent, good friend of mine, Michael Cole. Michael, Republicans are the grown-ups. Your response to that?
Jeremy, we're lucky enough to live in a constitutional monarchy. It's one of our greatest defences against extremism and dictatorships. And you've mentioned our freedom of assembly and our freedom of speech. And I welcome them going to express their views at the coronation. I would only say from observation that sometimes stony silence is far more effective than howling your lungs out at somebody passing by. When the Far East prisoners of war who'd suffered, the survivors who'd suffered so badly, turned their back in silence on Emperor Hirohito when he came here, that was very moving and it was very effective. But let us look at the first point that was raised by your other guest today. Here's a sum that Rishi Sunak wants us to do. The coronation is going to cost £100 million. It's going to bring in £1 billion.
Yep.
Now, that's a profit of £900 million. And if my maths are right, that's a profit of 90%. Now, even Goldman Sachs on a good day doesn't make 90%, I can assure you. So the economic argument is rubbish. But man does not live by bread alone, by money alone. This is a very important, in fact, is the most important moment for 70 years.
Yep.
It is the key moment in a reign. It is effectively a marriage ceremony with the vows read out loud between the new monarch and his subjects, and the subjects around 14 realms around the world. And the king will be having to make a loyal oath. He'll have to be tested and asked if he will be loyal to God, to the people, and to the church. And only when that happens is he given the symbols of power, the orb and the scepter, not for his own glory, but to do the work of God. And the spiritual element should not be downplayed, because this constitutional monarchy, which we can trace back for centuries, hasn't been at all bad for the people of this country.
I will say this to you, and we could sit here and talk about Fergie being shunned and the Pope gifting shards of whatever. I will say this. I will always stand by people, Michael, who have a right to protest. The difference in my mind between the person at the beginning who's out to disrupt people's lives and won't accept that that's a fact, and people like Nic Lawley who are good enough to come on and say, I have absolutely a right to believe in a republic. I will be going. I might shout something out, but I'm not going to disrupt. Everybody will be watching the coronation. We're going to be talking about every aspect of it between now and, of course, the big, big day on the 6th. Keep it taut. Michael, very quickly, you've got 5 seconds. Fergie, shunned, shocked, yes or no?
She won't be surprised that she's not going, and she will still enjoy herself, and she'll be there. She's only a mile away from where the concert is, and she's going to that, so she'll have a nice evening.
Well, I won't, because it's right next to my house. Michael Cole, thank you very much indeed. And next...